workplace inclusion, it really requires three levels of attention, right? There's the organizational level in the form of policies and organizational norms, incentives, the managerial level, so what we've kind of discussed, creating the psychological safety, attending to team dynamics, and then there is the team, right? The work group level. So that's, is there a sense of belonging, camaraderie, the team culture, right? A great example is your how to do team meetings, right? This is what's okay, this is what's not okay. And oftentimes when we look at trying to address systemic issues like racism, for instance, people focus so much on the behavioral change, right? And they put the onus of change on all the individuals, right? That's like, okay, that's a you problem. You take the courses. If you did something wrong, you said something wrong, you do the course, you pay for it. But to create an inclusive workplace, it requires intentionality at all of these levels, right? So you can't teach people not to have biases, right? We're social beings, we have biases, but we can, by understanding biases that influence the structures and the biases that influence policies and how systems are built, then we can recreate the scaffolding in a more objective way, right? And so it's not just about training people and on an individual level that they're going to change all of these systems. We have to address it at all of these different levels if we want to make a truly inclusive culture. So unless the values that we claim are really operationalized through the organization, and we're not just, I hope this person doesn't do anything that is going to be offensive, right? But we actually have hiring practices that exemplify the values that we claim. Our rewards and who we praise in the organization exemplifies the values. Who gets fired exemplifies the values, right? And too many leaders, they're seduced by these toxic rock stars, right? The ones that are bad for the culture, but because they hit their numbers or they're good at their job, we keep them around even though it impacts the performance of everybody else on the team. So have you created a team or an organization where anti-racism is optional, right? Have we done that? Have we created an organization where discrimination is discretionary? And it sounds weird when I phrase it like that, but that's how a lot of organizations are built, right? Like, just do your job and I hope that you don't do something offensive. And if you do, depending on how good of a job you do, I'll turn the other cheek. And so we need to make sure that we are operationalizing these values in every aspect of the organization, from the top to the very bottom. So there is role for the interpersonal and what is on the individual. There is a role for managers, such as yourselves, what we need to do. Then there's roles for the executive team, the board, and governance structures. And unless inclusion, intentional effort is being made at all of these levels, right? Without these systems of accountability throughout the whole organization to actually follow through, it creates all of these gray areas. And it's these gray areas where most of these inequities end up living, right? It's where, we don't actually have a way for how we deal with these types of situations. And so I keep bringing up the Zoom thing because that's the area where we won't necessarily have a policy. We just assume and we hope that people will behave in a certain way. But the more clarity we can bring to all aspects of our job, of how we expect people to show up, what is appropriate, what's not appropriate, then we're clearer on how we can manage it and support it going forward. But unless we're clear, then we operate in that gray zone, and that's where we allow biases and discrimination to occur that gets unchecked.